Let's play cards. Gwent wouldn't be bad.
What's up, grey boys and girls? Deka here with yet another Gwent tutorial video. Today I want to talk about the cards in the game, what you need to know about them, their classifications, all that good stuff. Without wanting to plagiarize anything, let's get straight into it. Now I realized that in my Shoop's Shop video, I promised that I was going to talk about the deck builder next. I decided to postpone that and talk about the cards themselves, as the deck builder wasn't going to make much sense without basic card knowledge, which I am to bestow upon you in this video. Also, let me state that some of the things I am going to be mentioning here are going to be familiar to those of you who watched the Shoop video. For those who haven't seen it, the link in the top right corner of the screen should be able to take you there. The same link is also present in the description below. However, there will be new stuff to learn here whether you watched the previous video or not, so stay tuned. Okay, to start with, I am going to open the deck builder itself and pick a random card like this one right here. Now the first thing I'd like to direct your attention towards is the number in the top left corner right here. This is known as the card's power, and it represents the amount of points added to the side the card is played. This means that since Drog is an allied card, I'll play it on my side, and it will therefore give me an additional 7 points for the rest of the round, provided its power is not altered, or the card itself is not removed from my side, or the battlefield as a whole. This also means that the card can take 7 points of damage if it doesn't have additional buffs or debuffs before it can be taken out of the battlefield completely. Please note that certain buffs and debuffs increase and decrease the card's power during a match. Now, before we go on, I should mention that in your explorations of different cards, it will be possible to run into cards without this number. I would like to ensure you that this is not a bug. The symbol in place of the number has meaning, which you'll better understand in future when I talk about the deck builder. For now, let's just stick to the basics. Next, we have this other number at the bottom right corner, with the bottle and the bread sitting atop of it. This is known as the provision cost of the card. I'll get into that in my next video when I talk about the deck builder, so don't let it worry you too much for now. Next, you will notice the card's border color here, which happens to be gold. Now, Gwent currently has 3 tiers of classifications of cards based on the potential impact a card can have in any given match, which is also known as the card's strength. These tiers are the card's border colors, the card's rarity, which is tied to the card's crafting costs, also known as the cost of creating the card, and finally, what I just told you not to worry about, being the card's provision cost. Now, for the sake of clarity, let me mention that the card's provision cost gives the clearest distinction when it comes to the card's strength, followed by the card's rarity, and lastly, the card's border color. Let's start with the card's border color then. Gwent currently has 2 types of borders, gold and bronze, with the gold cards being the stronger of the 2. Next, let's take a look at the card's rarity. First and foremost, let me point out that you can identify a card's rarity group by observing the color of the small triangle, also known as the gem, at the top left corner of the card right here. Now, the rarity of cards is divided into 4 groups, namely common, rare, epic, and legendary cards. The rarity of the card denotes how easily it can be acquired through Gwent's various RNG systems like daily login rewards, keg openings, etc., etc., with common cards being the easiest to obtain and legendary ones the hardest. It also indicates the strength of and the expense in card when crafting a card, with legendary ones being the strongest and therefore the most expensive to create. Let us now move on to this banner that appears next to the card right here. You will notice that it contains 4 items: the card's power, name, category, set symbol, and finally, faction color. The first 2 items need no explanation, as I expect that by now we are somewhat familiar with the card's power, while the card's name is, well, its name. So let's move on to the third item, which is the card's category. Now this category is shared among several cards and is used in gameplay, particularly when certain effects are supposed to affect certain cards and not others. For example, we can have an effect that doubles the power of all treants in your deck, or one that boosts any knight by 1 when played. You can think of these categories as races amongst cards. Next, let us talk about the set symbol. These symbols depict the sets to which these cards belong. These sets are the starter set, which you find yourself in possession of the very first time you boot up the game, the base set, which are the OG cards included in the original version of the game, Thronebreaker set, which are cards added to the game from Thronebreaker, the single player version of the game, a gem I highly recommend, by the way. And finally, the Crimson Curse, Novigrad, Iron Judgment, and Merchants of Ophir sets, which were added to the game as a consequence of expansions going by the respective titles. Our next item takes us to this background color right here, which the eagle-eyed among you will notice also acts as the background color for both the power and provision cost numbers on the cards themselves. Now these colors symbolize the factions these cards belong to. I will explain what factions are and what they mean in my deck builder video, but for now all you need to know is that there are 7 factions in this game. We have the Monsters, NILFGAARDians, the Freedom Fighters / Terrorists, the Ruffians, the Criminals, and finally those who answer to no one, the Neutrals. Let me mention that there are also some double agents that belong to multiple factions. That seems to be it for the banner. Below and alongside it, you will notice some text describing the card's functionality and even a little bit of lore. I'll talk about this when discussing Gwent's gameplay, so feel free to pretend it's not there. Finally, let me mention this hammer right here that doesn't always appear. Its function is to indicate cards you do not own but have the resources to craft. Now with bronze cards, you will notice that the hammer might get replaced with this ×2 text. In such a case, panic will be unwarranted, as this will only mean you own 2 copies of this card. Next, it is possible to run into some cards that have this third number here. This is the armor. The number represents the amount of point damage the card can absorb before its actual power gets affected. Please note that armor strength does not add to your points pool in the match, as it is purely for protection purposes. Finally, you will notice that there are 2 versions of every card, with the only difference between them being that one is animated and the other is not. It will be well with you to realize that the animated versions are known as premium cards. I talked about the procurement of these in my Shop Shop video. Allow me to end the video at that, folks. Please accept my gratitude for lending me your time. If you have any questions, comments, or suggestions about the game or my videos, feel free to post them in the comments below. Otherwise, I have been your host, the Deka, and until next time, always remember to toss a coin to your Witcher.